If you are a designer considering learning to code and making a career change into tech, you probably already have a lot of skills that will come in handy. I made this transition myself 4 years ago from working as a graphic designer to a software developer and now a DevOps engineer, and I've been surprised at how many of my design skills came in really handy in my new career. So in this video, I'd like to share with you 6 design skills that will help you if you're thinking about career changing into tech. So let's get right into it. Skill number 1 is creative problem solving. The work of design involves a lot of problem solving. Whether it's graphic design, UX UI design, or visual design, we're actively working on identifying problems and coming up with creative solutions. And the same is true for software engineering as well. When faced with a tough technical or design problem, we really benefit from the ability to step back and think creatively about the problem that we're trying to solve. For example, let's say you're working on the design of a client's online campaign, and you realize that their typography is not going to be accessible for all users in that particular context. So how would you solve this problem? Likely it'll help to tap into your creative problem-solving skills and consider how it could be done differently. So how can we think outside the box to come up with a unique solution, even if no one has ever done it that way before? So this kind of thinking is something that you've likely developed working as a designer, and it will take you really far in tech as well. Skill number 2 is understanding the designers on your team. Since you've been in their shoes, you understand and you can empathize with the designers on your team. You know why they might insist on a certain design decision because you've been there and you understand what goes into their work. This is a unique perspective and capability that you bring to your team, having come from the world of design. And what's exciting is that as a developer, you will also understand the designs from a functional perspective. Having both perspectives is really valuable, as you can actually act as a communication bridge between the designers and the developers on your team. Skill number 3 is design thinking, and specifically empathy. If you've been working as a designer, you've likely built up strong design thinking skills, specifically in the category of empathy. Design thinking is an iterative process in which you seek to understand your users, challenge assumptions, redefine problems, and create innovative solutions which you can prototype and test. As designers, much of our work revolves around empathizing with end users. Our designs need to be accessible and understandable for users. And in much the same way, as developers, we need to think about the other developers who are going to be reading our code next. So this means, have we written clean, well-organized code that will be easily maintainable in the future? And if we're developing an API, are we considering good practices that will help the consumers of our API easily get the information that they need? And as DevOps engineers, our users are actually other developers who we're building tools for in order to help improve their day-to-day work. So it really helps to have an orientation towards digging in and understanding user needs in design as well as in tech. And if you come from the world of design, this is one area that you're likely to really stand out in. Skill number 4 is technical diagrams. As a designer, you know that good visual communication is not just about making things pretty. You'll likely have a good sense for what information a particular audience will need and what can be left out. This comes in really handy when it comes to creating technical diagrams to help get your team aligned on a technical proposal, on your project's system architecture, or just to kick off a technical discussion. Basically, any situation where a picture is worth 1,000 words will really benefit from a good visual representation. And in the ever-growing complexity of the tech world, this is often the case. In these situations, your team will appreciate that you make complex technical topics seem easy to understand, and less technical stakeholders will appreciate your ability to translate tech into business value. And diagrams also just work as great documentation for later, which will speed up delivery by helping developers get on board with your system's architecture. Skill number 5 is the iterative workflow. If you've ever created an original logo design or presented a layout concept to a client, you know that the first draft is almost never going to be the final release. It may take several iterations to get the desired result. This is just part of how we work. In agile software development, we work in much the same way, designing, developing, and releasing small pieces of functionality, testing and collecting feedback, and refining from there. And finally, skill number 6 is continuous learning. One of the most valuable skills that any of us can have today is the ability to quickly figure out how to do something that we have never done before. If you've spent any time as a designer, you're likely resourceful in figuring out how to learn a new tool to get the result that you're looking for. An orientation towards continuous learning will help you greatly in software development as well. And in fact, it's actually a huge part of the job. With the rate that technology is expanding and progressing, the industry needs people who are open to picking up new skills and adapting to changing environments. In many cases, the expectation is actually not that you need to be an expert on a certain domain, but rather that you're willing to learn and quickly pick up new skills where needed. So those are 6 skills from my time as a designer that I've found really helpful in my tech career so far. My point here is not to make it sound like the fields of design and software are completely the same, because of course, they're quite different. Rather, I want to point out that if you've been working as a designer and you're considering making the change, you may be more prepared than you think. So I hope you found this video helpful. I plan to make more videos on this topic, so if you'd like to see more, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Also, feel free to leave me a comment below if you have any questions or suggestions for future topics, if you'd like to hear about anything else. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.